Just like Ethereum has its own technical ERC-20 token standard, so do many other blockchains. On Tron, tokens are programmed according to the TRC-20 token standard. As a public blockchain, anyone can issue their own TRC-20 token using the same basic set of rules, and their token can interact with any of the other apps running on the Tron platform. Hey, this is Josh from Phemex team. Before we start, please click on the like button, subscribe to our channel, turn on alerts, and share this video with your friends. Today, we'll look at the similarities and differences between Tron and Ethereum to establish the role that TRC-20 tokens can play in the broader blockchain ecosystem. We'll also examine the rules of the TRC-20 token standard and some of the apps, including the biggest stablecoin, USDT, that are using Tron to issue their tokens. So let's start with Tron versus Ethereum. There are many things Ethereum and Tron have in common, but also some critical differences. Like Ethereum, Tron uses a virtual machine known as the Tron virtual machine, or TVM, as a kind of operating system for smart contracts running on the platform. The TVM also uses the same Solidity program language as Ethereum. Therefore, tokens and smart contracts issued on Tron are fully compatible with Ethereum, which is an intentional design choice by the Tron Foundation, aiming to make it easy for developers to port their existing apps and tokens into the Tron ecosystem. But you may be wondering why developers would bother porting to Tron if Tron and Ethereum are so similar. Why not just stay with Ethereum? This is where the critical differences between Tron and Ethereum come into play. Ethereum uses the proof of work consensus model, which is known for being relatively slow. As traffic has increased on Ethereum, supply and demand laws have driven transaction fees higher. In early February, the average fee on Ethereum surpassed $20 for the first time, making it prohibitively expensive for lower value transactions. In contrast, Tron uses the Delegated Proof of Stake DPoS consensus. Because there are only 27 validators who need to confirm transactions, the network can handle far more traffic with significantly lower fees. Therefore, developers creating high volume apps, such as gaming, use Tron because of the superior scalability and lower fees. High volume isn't the only consideration. Tron's design also makes it a good choice for developers creating more elaborate smart contracts. The more lines there are in an application's smart contract code, the more complex it becomes to execute, and the more computational power it will use. And then the fees will also be higher. So on one hand, Ethereum encourages developers to be mindful of introducing any unnecessary complexity into their code by hitting complexity with higher fees. And the low fees on Tron give developers less incentive to write concise code. On the other hand, some apps will have complex code no matter how concisely they're written. And Tron's significantly lower fees give developers much more freedom to program elaborate smart contracts without worrying that high costs will render their apps unusable. The Delegated Proof of Stake consensus model has come under some criticism for being too centralized, given the relatively small number of validators compared to the vast number of proof of work miners. However, the blockchain trilemma of scalability, security, and decentralization is a challenge as old as the technology itself. Therefore, developers and users always have to prioritize what's most important to them when deciding which platform to use. So now let's look at the rules of the TRC-20 token standard. Like the ERC-20 token standard, TRC-20 tokens must adhere to a set of rules, including mandatory and optional elements. There are 3 optional rules and 6 mandatory rules. The optional rules are: token name refers to the full written name of the token, like Tether. Token ticker refers to the abbreviation used for the token, like USDT. And token precision is the minimum divisible unit of the token, which can be up to 1/18. Now for the mandatory rules. Total supply refers to the maximum number of tokens that can be issued on the Tron platform. Balance of will return the token balance of the user's Tron account. Transfer allows tokens to be moved from the smart contract to a user's account. Approve authorizes a third party, such as another smart contract, to transfer tokens. Transfer from allows a third party, such as another smart contract, to take tokens from a user account and transfer them elsewhere. Allowance queries the remaining number of tokens that a third party can transfer. So, like Ethereum, a developer can program other rules into TRC-20 tokens if they want them to carry out specific tasks. However, the code lines I just mentioned are the minimum requirement for any smart contract to be classed as TRC-20 compliant. Let's look at some apps and projects that are using the TRC-20 token standard. Tether is perhaps the biggest and best known project using the TRC-20 token standard. Tron USDT is now more popular than Ethereum USDT, which shows that Ethereum's high transaction fees are becoming a barrier for many users. Furthermore, the decentralization argument becomes largely irrelevant when discussing Tron USDT versus Ethereum USDT, because the idea of decentralization is based on the concept of trustlessness. USDT users are required to trust Tether as the company issuing USDT, regardless of whether the transactions take place on Ethereum or Tron. Therefore, it makes sense to take advantage of Tron's lower fees and faster confirmation times when transacting in USDT. Revain is another project using TRC-20 tokens as part of its review platform. Revain operates a kind of blockchain-based version of Trustpilot. People who leave reviews can get rewards for the quality of their contributions, which incentivizes people to write useful and honest reports about their experiences. Just is a Tron-based variation on the MakerDAI stablecoins. Users can stake their TRX tokens into collateralized depth positions to generate a stablecoin called USDJ, which is pegged to the value of the US dollar. Tron also has a vibrant ecosystem of games, including Mega Cryptopolis 3D, Blockchain Cuties, and many more. So to wrap up, TRC-20 tokens offer all the same benefits as ERC-20 tokens. However, with Ethereum frequently suffering from congestion, resulting in high fees and poor user experience, Tron-based tokens offer a convenient workaround that's becoming popular with many users, particularly for those transacting with stablecoins. Phemex is pleased to provide users with access to TRC-20 USDT tokens with fast confirmation and no fees, providing more flexibility for stablecoin users. If you don't have a Phemex account yet, just click on the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen. Create a Phemex account and you will get a 7-day free premium membership trial and other trading bonuses. To learn more about Phemex and cryptocurrencies, watch out the videos in the box on the left. And if you're new to the crypto world, have a look at the videos on the right for some of Phemex's user tutorials. Thanks for watching this video. Bye.